All right, here we are with the last basic tool tutorial. This one is on the line tool. The line tool is pretty nifty because it has a lot of really interesting things you can do with it. Some of them not so thought of. For instance, you can use line tool to sometimes correct some artifacting in your builds. And other times it may not always work, and you wouldn't really think that you'd be able to, fix something with a line tool by making artifacts go away by just basically smashing it, but you can. This primitive use is basically let's add a line. Most people are going to say, okay, I want to take and create a line and make it go from point A to point B, and that's exactly what this does at the basics of it all. So we're going to use hotkey 8, pull that up. Now I've got it pre-made at 10 by 10 just because it's going to be easy to see. I've selected, let's get this one here. Works like, there we go. We're going to select this little space right here, click on it, and I've now got stuff coming off of it when I move my mouse, because what it did is it anchored to that side of the actual wall. Now I'm going to be moving around and I'm going to be making a line basically wherever that shows. You're going to see it change from green to yellow. That is to indicate to you your alignment basically. When I have it two different steps of green, that means it's in alignment in one direction, then it gets darker green or more like full green. That means it's aligned perfectly in both directions. So that way vertical and horizontal facings are aligned properly. If it's only one of those directions, vertical or horizontal, you get a kind of light green, and if it's neither, you're going to get it yellow. Yellow does not mean it's not going to work, but it does mean you may not get optimal results. The greener it is, the better it is, but that's obvious. But why would you want to sit there and do, a solid line across? Because then it's just a selection tool, right? So no, you're going to be like, no, forget this. We're going to make a slope. Let's get this lined up with one step of green. Boom. We got a pretty solid, nice slope, crisp edges right alongside that from one end to the other. Now I can use that as a pathway or the edge of a roof or something of that nature. You can pretty much do whatever you want with it, as well as just taking specific voxels from there and then doing something with those voxels, via the selection tool, because not every one of those voxels is actually going to be, any particular color or any particular shape. So we're going to see, just for an example, here on the side, that's the shape of that voxel. Now we've got that voxel, that block being that shape. So we've now got different shapes without even realizing it for each one of those to say this is the shape we're creating using a line. So now we could take that line and use those particular blocks that we've got, for the various shapes and say, okay, this is what we're doing. Here's what we got. Let's copy it out and use that to make something else. You could do that, or just, stick to, like I said, basic roof, basic arch, that kind of thing. You can still do it, and it's not going to affect it all. It's going to be pretty neat. And as you saw, matching up just that one was actually really clean. Let's go to an undo here, and we're going to do this again. But now we're going to make it yellow, so you can see that it does not always work exactly as intended, but does work quite often. So here we're back here, clicking there, and I'm going to place it here. Notice it's still nice and clean, still nice and crisp. There's a little bit of warpage on this side. The shape looks good, but you get a little bit of artifacting because of the texture material there, which is your choice whether you want to keep it. Notice it's happening on the opposite edge of that as well. And that's what happens when you don't do it aligned to at least one of the green sides. You do get a little bit of artifacting. And sometimes, depending on how steep that actual line is, it comes out really messed up. But again, that's just because algorithms will say, hey, nope, sorry, bro, you messed up. Now we're going to show another feature here. I'm going to increase the size of this. Here's where it gets real funny, because you can start to do some cool stuff. And I clicked in there, got my anchor again. But just like other tools, you can scale. So I'm going to scale this down to, we'll say, nice and even to even. We'll go with an 8. How's that sound? Is that cool? Oh, look, and I got some green there. Click, got a nice little crisp edge there. But now I got it kind of flat on the top. The bottom is still arched up like that. And look at that. See? So you can have two different sizes, get different angles on each one. And you could even do, say, 11 to, that was an accident, I didn't pick 11, to 3. So you can get an even sharper crisp cut there. You can go from, we'll start 3, do the sharper one, and this is where you're going to start seeing probably a couple of mess ups, because at that angle you start to get a nice crisp edge, but then you get the artifacting. But nonetheless, you're still getting that shape going up there. So if you're doing spikes or you're doing rooftops, those are basic things that you're going to do with the line tool, and they're pretty simple to do. Now here's where it gets to be real fun. I am going to click on here. I've got my starting point, and I'm going to go into tweak mode. Now I've got that going, and I don't want to just do it like that. We're going to hit Y. Notice it turned blue, and I've got it going through this sphere right here. Because if you hit the Y key, it is going to do the negative line tool, which deletes stuff. And we're going to hit OK. Boom. Chopped off the top of that sphere. Got a nice crisp edge. Look at that. There's very little artifacting. Right there in the little corner, you can't really see it all that well, but right about here, there's a little bit of warpage, but for the most part, you get a pretty crisp sphere cut. So as you can see, the line tool can actually do nice cutting systems. So if you want some complex shape cut, it tends to do a pretty decent job. Granted, it may mistake a couple things, and it's not always perfect because, again, mathematics doesn't always work out in your favor. But it's a pretty reliable tool to get some interesting shapes. If you need to clean some artifacting, which I sadly don't think I have much of over here, at least nothing that would demonstrate what I want, but you can line tool certain things. And I almost healed tooled. It was like angry. And I'm just clicking in place, and it starts changing the shape of the face of each thing. And you'll notice each time I do that, you get a little different shadowing and artifacting on that particular piece, because it's going in and saying, let's change this, because it's basically trying to slice in a way that would be just like the line tool deleted stuff. I guess that's the easiest way to explain it. And it does help clean up some artifacting. The thing you need to keep in mind is if you're working with a fine detail and try to do that, it may mess it up. So don't go crazy with it. Be sure to experiment, check your undos, make sure you have duplicates and stuff, so that way you always have plenty of opportunity to fix any mistake that you make. Because again, when you delete stuff, regardless if you're doing it on purpose or not, mistakes do happen. But the line tool is pretty nifty. Check it out. You can build entire builds with it and get stuff done. I've seen a lot of really interesting things using the line tool. And that is the end of the line tool feature. And I hope you've enjoyed these tutorials. I know they're really basic, and we hope that you new users who are just joining Landmark for the first time ever are starting to see that the tools are not as complex as they may seem, and you could build a lot of really simple stuff with it that ends up looking pretty cool. And really, it's just how you use the tools together. So I look forward to seeing what you're building, and if you have something cool, don't forget you can tweet us out. Just tag me. I'm at 1106. You can see it right up in the top, and I will be happy to check out whatever build you got, because I'm always interested to see what you guys do.